your book, again, I'm holding it up here if you're watching on YouTube. Fantastic book. And I want to point out that you published this before Trump came into office and before this rare earth metal topic came up and before this whole trade war was really making the news. And I'm sure you were doing research on this for years prior. So the timing is obviously very good. So kudos to you on the timing of this. But also, I wanted to say for investors who are looking at the tech sector or really any sector, this is almost a must read because to understand what's going on globally and within the US, it gives so much perspective of the kind of trouble we're in. When I say we, with the US specifically, but also the global economy of how we're going to trade metals back and forth. And now that Trump's in office, here's where we're getting a little political. He's been signing tons of executive orders and prioritizing different, trade relations. I saw recently the State Department put a press release out about prioritizing the Lobito corridor in Africa, which is this railway out of the
Yep.
Congo, which actually Biden started, to be fair on that.
Mhm.
But my point is, with all this, do you see a massive change coming because Trump got elected, or do you think it's status is quo just because we're headed this direction, we can't avoid where we're going?
Well, I mean, I think this is about so much more than just the executive branch, and I would say that this is actually an issue that is a rare unifier on Capitol Hill, for instance, in Congress. Democrats and Republicans don't agree on a lot in the U.S. House or Senate, but this is an issue that actually unites a lot of people, and so you do see a lot of members really pushing for maybe more financial support for mining projects, or maybe an update on the permitting process, or some other change related to this issue. Certainly, yes, President Trump coming into office continues the big focus on it. He did focus on the issue in his first term, and then President Biden focused on it obviously in his term. And I would say each leader, each president, yes, they had sort of the same end goal in mind, but they had different ways of going about it. I think President Biden approached it from a climate lens and sort of how can we increase the production of these critical minerals in response to the warming planet. And I think President Trump looks at it from a national security perspective. How do we increase domestic or production with allies in order to not be so dependent on one party? And yes, I think each sort of have shared a little bit perspective with the other. But I think in essence, that's how they approach the issue. And so I think that that reflects in different strategy outputs that, for instance, Biden might have done when he was in office. And now we're seeing from President Trump. But so far from President Trump, I'll point out, we've just seen executive orders. I'm not downplaying executive orders, but we haven't seen actual legislation come and be signed. So, if you're a CEO of a mining company, or you're a big investor, or you're on a board of directors, you're probably going to want to see some hard legislation out there so you can deploy capital. That's why the Inflation Reduction Act caused a lot of people that sit on boards to be like, okay, cool, I can vote to allocate 5, 10, 15 billion US to a project knowing that the IRA is there. But an executive order can be overturned by whoever sits in the Oval Office in 3.5 years. So, if you're on a board of directors, are you going to be willing to deploy that capital? Maybe, maybe not.